I am Fran Bealler. I live on the Upper West Side of New York City, and I'm so pleased for this opportunity to share my work with you. I enjoyed seeing what some of the other artists have presented on YouTube, and it's really inspiring. So my first love is painting, but I also love to draw, and it's important to say that because of where this talk will be going. When I was 20 years old, I had my first solo show at the John O'Rourke Gallery on Madison Avenue here in New York City. And since then, I've shown in galleries, museums, and art fairs all over. I feel incredibly fortunate and privileged to be an artist. Because of this, I like to give back to my community in several ways. First, I co-lead a local arts organization called the New York Artist Circle. We're a group of professional visual artists who meet to share information, opportunity, and resources, and generally support each other in our careers. We've been meeting for over 20 years. I am also an arts educator. I teach adults and children privately and in small groups. When I was an art student, I had a rather unusual education. I sought out teachers to do apprenticeships with, one-on-one learning in the artist's actual studio. This was so valuable to me that when I became a teacher, I was thrilled to be able to work one-on-one with my own students. Many of my students come to me to help with their high school and college portfolios, and I really find this kind of work so gratifying, giving back to the next generation of artists. Anyway, you've been looking at some of my paintings, of course, while I'm speaking. I am a figurative painter, which you probably figured out. I love color, detail, and complexity in my work. And while there are many thoughts and ideas that wind through my work, I usually like to start from a very visual place. I'm inspired by what I see around me in my home and in my travels. I really love to travel. I collect objects and sketches and photos to use in my work. Travel inspires quite a bit of my art. You might also have noticed that I'm rather fascinated with objects that float, fly, or fall in my art. Over the course of my career, my works have moved between realism and surrealism, between figurative work and still or not so still lives, between oil painting and drawing. So this next slide is of two drawings, also from my ongoing series of flying, floating, and falling objects. And we are now going to transition into a very different body of work. So in 1980, I did a self-portrait a day in a bound journal. I thought of it as my visual diary, and these are pages from that journal. I was in my 20s, and 20 years later, I came upon that journal having totally forgotten about it. And I decided to do the same project again, thinking that it would be really interesting to look back and see what kind of changes I found in myself. This time, instead of a bound book, I did the project on loose sheets in all different mediums and sizes. So I had a show of a selection of the work at Gallery Korea here in New York City in 2003. That was very exciting. Here are some works from that 2000 series. I did collages, I did silver point and watercolor, and I really tried to push the envelope a little bit of what made a self-portrait. Since I was doing 365 of them, I had to push the envelope a little bit. In 2010, I decided that instead of every 20 years, okay, I'm going to make this an every 10-year project. And again, I did them on loose sheets, but this time I gave myself more of a structure, a framework. I did the drawings on 20 centimeter squares so that they were all the same size. And I had a theme for every day of the week. In 2014, I was able to show the entire series at Westbeth Gallery in New York. This was really exciting for me to be able to show the whole series. In the end, it came out looking a little bit like a crazy quilt patchwork, and I love that aspect of it. Here are some more pieces from that 2010 self-portrait a day. So you can see that even as I was doing the paintings that I showed earlier, all through that time I was always drawing, and specifically in these years when I had these projects going on, I was doing a drawing every day. So this is the end of that series. And now we come to the present. And so, as you might have guessed, because it's 2020, yes, I am doing this series again this year. And here I am in my studio working on my self-portrait a day project, an artist a day. I thought, this is too perfect. It's so appropriate and relevant to present my self-portrait a day project to an artist a day. Having a daily art practice is just a wonderful thing. In January, I started to think about how this year was different from 2010, what had changed in my life, and what was I going to explore. The first thing I thought about was my glasses, because now for the first time I was wearing glasses all the time, and they were going to be a thing to reckon with in my drawings. I also thought about flying, floating, falling marbles, which I've been mildly obsessed with for the last few years. You saw some in my paintings, so I wanted to include those. And my cell phone, that was a big thing that had changed in the last 10 years. 10 years ago, I had a flip phone. You know, having a smartphone is both a curse and a blessing. I'm sure many of you feel that way. And so I explore what it means to me to have that phone. I also continued to explore other aspects of my life at the time, the beginning of the year. And then came March, and we all know what happened. What a strange and interesting year to be doing such a self-reflective project. I find myself documenting the current situation of global pandemic and social distancing. I try to look beyond my exterior, to look at myself in a deeper way. And in these drawings, I explore my feelings, which reflect the feelings of people around me as I cycle through disbelief, anger, and fear. Over the years, I have found that as I learn the vocabulary of my own features and forms, I bear witness to the changes that come with time, and through that, a broader experience of being human. This box series emerged around the time we had to go into lockdown, and it's about feeling trapped, constrained, and boxed into our rooms and our Zooms. And I'm also reflecting on how boxes have become a lifeline to the outside world. These images come from the first weeks of lockdown in New York City. And you know, when we were told that we had to wear masks, I thought, oh my God, I can't do this. But of course I did. And I started to think about all the ways that we hide our faces. In this series, and these are 3 drawings from the Shadow series. Here, I am thinking about our effect on the world and on each other, how the human race casts a shadow across the natural world, and how pollution has lifted as we have retreated. I've also been really moved and affected by the Black Lives Matter movement, which has emerged in this time. These images were done from photos that I took at various marches that I attended. As the months go by, I circle around to the same themes again. The phone, seeing myself at different angles, flying, floating marbles, and dreams of flight. So I wanted to thank you very much for letting me share my work with you today. You can see more of my work here if you're interested in art lessons. I do them online. I would like to open up the floor now to questions. Does anybody have any questions?
And this is Anisha in Niwot, Colorado, and I just want to appreciate your work so much. I enjoy too your process. It seems like you have categories or themes, and I like that aspect. Because I'm a tapestry weaver and I weave intuitively, I find that I have to bring myself back, and so I have to do some kind of a pattern weave to kind of give me a little framework. So I like how you have this vivid and very prolific imagination. So it seems a little bit in that same category, you know, that you've got a theme that keeps things in place, and yet your imagination is just so vast. So thank you.
Thank you so much for that comment. You know, I also saw your presentation, Anisha, and appreciate everything you said. And I know exactly what you're talking about in your work. One thing I'm not sure I said is that like many artists over the years, I tend to work in series. I do one thing and then I think, oh, you know, I could do this from a different angle. Oh, and now I could do it with different colors. And then I could think about this aspect of it. And suddenly I've got 10 or 20 or 30 or more paintings and drawings or of the same topic. So for me, doing a daily practice like self-portraits every day, it's kind of a natural thing, not always an easy thing. It can be very challenging. Some days the last thing I want to do is look at myself. And perhaps that's part of where that shadow series came from. Yeah, I feel like I was so inspired by the other artists that I saw on An Artist a Day. I felt like quite a few of you were very organized and did amazing presentations. And I thought, okay, you know, that's a tough act to follow. So I'm going to really work on this. And yeah, but I'm also, you know, I'm proud of my work. I'm happy to show it. I'm excited for this opportunity to share it. And, you know, these self-portraits, they're hard to show because it's a series of 365 drawings and not every gallery can handle that. And not every art space has even the room for them. So I can show sections of them, but when I'm able to show them all, it's just amazing. But how to get them out in the world, that's challenging too. So this was a great opportunity to share them, which I really appreciate.
Just have one more question, and it's about your shadow series. And I'm familiar with shadow work, and so oftentimes the shadow side has different connotations and sometimes not so positive. Did you find that doing your work, one, did you have questions or things that arose that you wanted to shift maybe the focus on because it was a shadow? And doing the art, because it was a series and you did several of them, and I found them very beautiful and positive, but sorry, I didn't mean to interject that, but did you find if you did have questions arise, did the actual art process help resolve? Thanks.
That's a very good and deep question. So I have to really think about that. I love that. I showed 3 of them, but I've done maybe 20 of them at this point. So yeah, they actually started out of this strange pandemic time of social isolation. So going out during the day was a little difficult in New York. Even though New York is so empty right now, it still could be a little crowded in the daytime in the parks and if you go for a walk. So my husband and I took to taking these very late night walks out in Central Park together. You know, I wouldn't go in Central Park by myself at night, but with my husband, it's okay. And we always meet people walking their dogs there. So just so I don't want people to worry about the out in Central Park. But as we walked through Central Park at night, I noticed from the streetlights these elongated shadows that emerged from my husband and I. And so like a lot of things in my work, ideas tend to come from visual stimuli. So I saw these shadows and I just thought they were beautiful and I didn't like really think about them too much. I just appreciated the form of the shadows and the way they fell over things. And, you know, right now I am looking at the shadows behind Dr. Lee there. And there's a beautiful shadow of a tree falling on the grass. Yeah. And, you know, honestly, my shadow falling over the land was a lot like that. It interrupted the land, but it also conform to the land in every drawing. So sometimes over nature, sometimes it's over concrete. or stairs or a building. So I think humans at our best, we conform to the world and we live in harmony, so that is the beauty of what we are capable of. But, unfortunately, too often we cast our shadow, as you said, in a darker way. And I did start to think about that because as we were in lockdown, there's less cars. Really, the pollution in New York just took off. I mean, I can't describe how crystal clear at night it looks now. You can see stars, you can see the buildings very far away. All that haze is gone. It's just beautiful and amazing and inspiring, but it also made me think that we are the ones that created that pollution in the first place, so that's our shadow on the world, one of our shadows. Pollution, war, we could go on, but let's not. But yeah, so I do, duality comes up a lot in my work. And so the duality of the positive and the negative of the shadow of humanity, yeah, that is definitely something that I was focusing on, and will continue to for the rest of the year, honestly, because I'm still finding more shadows to do. Thanks.
Bye.